In the gritty heyday of 1980s rock, Tom Keifer stood out not just as the frontman of Cinderella, but as the very soul of the band, a powerhouse vocalist and a deeply emotional songwriter whose voice carried the weight of heartbreak, defiance, and raw humanity. Songs like Don't Know What You Got, Till It's Gone, and Nobody's Fool weren't just hits. They became anthems of a generation, packed with blues-soaked confession and arena-sized emotion. Keifer's stage presence, all sweat, snarls, and straining high notes, made him an icon. But behind the glam and grit was a man facing a silent and devastating battle. Just as Cinderella was climbing toward lasting fame, the early 1990s brought a cruel twist of fate. Keifer was diagnosed with a paralyzed left vocal cord. For someone whose voice was his identity, it was more than a medical issue. It was a collapse of everything he had built. The diagnosis forced him into years of surgeries, more than half a dozen, and intensive vocal therapy that often left him unable to speak, let alone sing. Meanwhile, as grunge redefined the rock scene and Cinderella faded from the mainstream, Keifer kept writing and fighting. He wasn't just trying to reclaim his place in music. He was struggling to rediscover who he was without the one thing that had always defined him. It wasn't until 2013, after nearly 2 decades out of the spotlight, that Keifer returned, with his first solo album, The Way Life Goes. This wasn't a nostalgia act, it was a resurrection, a deeply personal collection of songs that blended hard rock roots with a richer, blues-driven maturity. It marked a new chapter, one where Keifer wasn't just back, he was transformed. The voice he had rebuilt was different, maybe even stronger in its emotional depth. Fans connected not just with the music, but with the story of perseverance behind it. Over the years, he returned to the stage, older, grounded, but still burning with that same passion that made him a star. And though the industry had moved on and his moment in the mainstream had passed, Keifer proved something far more enduring. That true artistry isn't just about fame, but about grit, resilience, and the courage to rise again. His voice, once silenced, now sang with a hard-earned wisdom that resonated even deeper. So, what really happened to Tom Keifer? He faced the kind of loss that could have ended everything, but instead, he turned it into a legacy. In an industry that often discards the broken, Keifer stood back up and redefined himself on his own terms. His story is one not just of survival, but of transformation. He didn't just survive the fall. He made the climb back up part of his legend.